Welcome, beautiful souls, to the Yatrasisters podcast. I'm Sharita.
And I'm Allison.
And today we're going to talk about
fear.
Yes. We're going to talk about fear. That thing that has been around since the beginning of time, actually.
Since humans hit Earth.
Yes. Which
fear
means it ain't going nowhere.
No. Yeah. It's part of who we are.
It is. It really is.
We have to live with it.
Yes, we do. Mm-hmm. Yes, we do.
But we don't want to live with too much of it.
No. It has to have a balance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I think first, before we talk about it, we need to define fear.
Okay.
Like, what is fear?
I hope you have the definition, because I have no idea.
Oh, I do. I do. Now, the first definition is fear for me is Jaws.
Okay.
No, I'm being serious.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fear for me. My father took me to see Jaws when I was 4 years old. My sister was 10.
Okay.
I'm not making this up. She literally pulled out her hair, a circle with the roots still attached. That I remember inside of the movie.
Because she was so scared.
Yes, you do not take a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old to go see Jaws.
No, and then take them to the lake or put them in the water.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then my sister proceeded for the rest of my life, every time I was in water, she would go, done. Done. I'm 50, and my sister could do that to me today, and I think I would piss on myself.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because fear is that deep. It's that it takes a hold of you like a rooted tree.
Yes.
Yeah.
But, okay, so what is real fear?
Okay.
All right, so fear is a cautionary device that serves a purpose. It contains survival mechanisms.
Okay.
So we need it. If we don't have fear, we would fall off cliffs. We'd pick up poisonous snakes. We would stick our hands in blenders. We need to have some level of fear because it is a survival mechanism that we must honor and keep inside of our life, inside of our bodies, our mind, inside of society.
Okay.
So that's the purpose of fear.
Okay.
Yes. But once we move past the purpose, we can begin abusing it.
Okay, so good things. Good thing you just brought up. So when I think of fear, for me, because, I mean, we've all been afraid of something. And it just, so many things you can be afraid of. But for me, I notice that fear comes in when I create a narrative around it mostly. Does that make sense?
Oh, sure. We usually fear the narrative more than we do the event.
Yeah, so why do we allow our brains to make that shit up? Because it's a story, right?
It's absolutely.
Okay.
Well, that's going to link to your ego.
Ooh, okay.
So fear is partnered to your ego. Your ego loves fear. So what is your ego? The ego is the I part of self.
Okay.
It is not the divine part. It's not the part attached to the soul or a higher connection. The ego is attached to I.
Okay.
The smallness of yourself. To really break down the ego loves listening to selfish counsel.
Ooh.
It thrives. So anytime somebody's talking selfishly, the ego gets excited.
Okay.
The ego is attached to stuff. It loves stuff. An ego is a trader. Oh my gosh. It will trade you. It will sell you out.
Okay.
Your ego loves guilt. It loves blame.
Okay.
Your ego is very competitive. It loves measurements. Egos love measurements.
Yeah.
So they love not enough.
Okay.
And it loves abundance, shortages. That's everything that does the ego. So when you put all of that list that I described, the ego, of course the ego is obsessed with fear.
Okay.
So your ego says things to you all the time in the back of your head.
Okay.
Your ego would say, I am afraid of not getting a job.
Yes, been there.
But then it would say, I'm afraid of losing my job.
Or I'm afraid of losing a person.
Oh, I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I'm afraid of losing my soulmate. But in the same sentence, it will say, I'm afraid that I am not with my soulmate.
Yes. So the ego tells lies.
Oh, it's a vicious cycle. It loves to mess you up. It's competitive.
Pathological liar.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Your ego will say, I'm afraid of living.
Okay.
A bored life, right?
Yeah.
But then it will also say, I'm afraid of dying.
True. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It can't make up its mind.
So how do we shut it up, or do we?
Oh, gosh. Well, that's hard. There's a lot of games we have to do with that.
Okay.
We have to first identify, where does fear come from? Mm-hmm. So we just did that. Fear is coming from your ego.
Yes.
Your ego is the part that's living in society. Your ego is the part that likes society, because it really likes society rules. It likes measurements. It likes stuff. Mm-hmm. It likes physical attributes.
Okay.
So we live with our ego 80% of the time.
So does our ego think that it either has the answers, or does our ego thinks that it is supposed to continuously be guiding us, which I think keeps us from living in the moment because we're always trying to figure shit out? Does that make sense?
Well, your ego, in Buddhism, there's a little statement that says that fear is... How does it I'm trying to remember exactly how to say it because I don't want to misquote it.
Yeah.
Fear does not prevent death. Mm-hmm. Fear causes you to lose life.
Wow. That is so true.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that is really true. Like, even like my personal life and just thinking about situations where, and I've gotten a lot better, but I'm like, I'm not going to do that because, and I create this whole narrative and I miss out on something that I could have possibly had to enhance my life.
Well,
or are you talking about something different?
No, I'm talking exactly. You do have a narrative. You're just misusing the narrative. There are ways and techniques that you can use a narrative.
Okay.
You just need to know how to use your narrative properly when you're dealing with fear. I'll forget about it myself. I'll tell you, I'll be so caught up in fear. And a lot of times we don't realize that we are caught up in fear. So fear is worry, and worry causes fear. So another way of saying that you're living with fear is you're living with worry. Okay. You're inside the narrative, and the narrative is causing you to worry.
Yes, the narrative you created.
Correct.
Yeah.
And then you've got to keep twisting in that narrative, because remember, your ego is never happy. So the ego is going to spin the narrative of saying, you're going to lose your soulmate. But then it's going to say, but you may not even be with your right soulmate. And then it may say, you may never find a soulmate. And then you're like, but I am with this person. But are they the soulmate? And so before you know it, the narrative is like a circle story, like in Alice in Wonderland. Okay. So you're so stuck in the narrative, you're stuck in fear. Okay. Because the ego is not going to let you get out. The ego wants to keep you in there.
I am so pissed at the ego right now hearing you describe it. Like, I just want to fight my ego. Like, I just want to fight. Yes, I want to fight it.
Your ego is such an asshole. It is the asshole that lives inside of you. Okay. Yes. It's like hiring somebody to walk behind you and say bullshit to you 24 hours a day. That's what your ego does.
I got it.
You don't have enough.
Yeah.
You know you don't have enough. Yeah. You need more.
You're not pretty enough. You're not good enough. You're not talented enough.
It's never going to work out. And even if it does work out, it's probably going to fail afterwards.
They don't really like you.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe they liked you, but they only like the fake you. They don't know the real you. I mean, this is all your ego's doing.
Ego is ridiculous.
It is. It always tells you don't have enough in your savings. You need more.
Yes.
Right? Or you've built up too much of a savings. You're never having fun. I mean, it doesn't matter.
You can't win with the ego.
No, it's devil's advocate.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's when we talk about fear. It's not necessarily Jaws, because that's real. I mean, I really can go in the water and be eaten by Jaws.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that is a real fear. The statistics are extremely low from what I've heard. Yeah. Whatever. It's really, it's really low of not getting eaten by a shark.
What?
Not getting in the water.
Yes,
there are land sharks. I mean, I do believe in land sharks too. But so we think when we hear the word fear, we're like, I don't really have any fears. I'm not afraid of heights, or I'm not afraid of water. Or I'm not afraid. We're not talking about that. We're all living with fear because the ego loves it. It loves to keep you in place. It loves to lock you in.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what the That's what we're talking about. Worry.
So I just went hiking over the weekend. It was beautiful and amazing to Chimney Rock.
Oh yeah, I love Chimney Rock.
I'm walking, and I am afraid of heights.
Are you?
Oh my God! Did not know.
I can't wait to mess with you on this.
So if I'm locked in something up high, I'm good.
Okay.
But walking up to those heights, and all I have is just a little narrow ass stairway to keep me from. My head is like, go ahead and jump. You just fly. And I'm like, I know in reality that's not the case. I don't know if it's the freedom. Is that my ego or is that something else?
No, I think that's real fear. That's cautionary device fear.
Okay. Right.
So I don't want to downplay someone having fear of heights. Yeah. Like my fear of water.
Okay.
Or fear of sharks. It's not necessarily water, but sharks live in water.
Okay.
And they can be in pools because my sister told me they can be invisible and that you'll only see their eyeball when they get ready to eat you. I mean, I know she really did a doozy on me. I was like 7 when she was telling me these things.
That's wild. That's crazy.
But yes, I think those are cautionary devices inside of you, such as be fearful when you lean over this fence at Chimney Rock, you may fall.
Yeah, that's a reality.
That is a reality. But that's why we get confused when we hear the word fear. We think, are we talking about fears that are logical fears? Most of our fears are not logical at all.
No, they're not. They really aren't. Like, we are some great storytellers. Like, some of the movies that are made cannot compare to some of the stories that we create. And the thing is, when you get through that moment, you look back, the story you created to go with your fear didn't even happen.
No.
Yeah, it didn't even happen.
No, correct. But you can use that story to combat living with fear. So there's some little lessons that you can use.
Yeah.
So how do we deal with fear? And I'm working on one right now. I mean, I'm doing it right now. I have had about 4 or 5 days of just fearful of making a decision.
Okay.
And I didn't even call it fearful. I just kept saying, I have to make a decision. Maybe it's change. But notice when we always say that fear of change.
Yes.
We forget the fear part. We're like, I'm not fearing change.
Yeah.
Stop saying that. It's just, I'm trying to make the right change.
Correct.
I'm trying to make the right decision. But underneath it is, it's fear.
Yeah.
What am I fearing? In the end, what does it matter? It's just another step.
Yeah.
Right?
That's true.
So there are certain things that we have to remind ourselves. And as I was working on this podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, I had been sitting with fear for about a week and forgot that I was sitting with fear.
Wow.
And when I went back to my notes and all of my lessons that I have right here for myself that I failed to pull out and read, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to help me tremendously.
Okay.
Okay. So this is what you do.
Yeah.
All right. Thich Nhat Hanh, he says, the only way to ease our fear and truly be happy is to acknowledge our fear and look deeply at its source.
I just want to take a moment for him.
Oh.
Beautiful soul.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Everything he always taught us. So in a nutshell, what that is saying, the first thing we need to do is name the fear. Name the fear. That's half the homework battle right there.
So wouldn't the name always be bullshit?
I mean...
Just saying. I mean, because
it could be bullshit.
Yeah.
But then, that makes you feel bad because maybe it really is a real fear. Maybe you're fearing a financial destruction. Maybe you're fearing that whole point.
Yeah.
I leave this soulmate because they weren't my right soulmate. And then I find out that I never was going to have a soulmate. So half of a soulmate was better than no soulmate. Or, I leave this job only to find a worse job, right? So I know it's bullshit, but at the same time, we still have to figure out what is it that we're ultimately fearing.
Yes. Okay. All right.
If we can figure out what we're ultimately fearing, then we can play the narrative a little bit better.
So that requires work.
And so much work.
A lot of us, including myself sometimes, we just don't want to roll up our sleeves and actually do the work because we're afraid of what we might find.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. All right.
And a lot of us don't even know what we're fearing. It's too complicated of a question to say, well, get to the root.
Correct.
And you go to sit down and you're like, I don't know what the root is. I just know I don't want to do this.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Okay, so how do you get to the root?
Yes.
The root is you're going to have to gain a sense of proportion to your fear.
Okay.
So you got to gain a sense of proportion to it. Mm-hmm. There's one or two ways you can do this. Okay, this is really cool. The first one is simple and easy.
Yeah.
All you have to do is talk to death.